And thank you, Ag Launch. Thank you to my cohort. Thank you for being here and listening to what we all have to say. Couldn't do it without you. I'm going to talk to you today about a new crop, and that crop is carbon removal, which is carbon taken out of the atmosphere and stored in the soils. And that's Nori's mission. We want to make it as simple as possible for individuals and companies to pay for and for farmers to sell verified carbon removed and stored in the soils. The carbon credit market represents over $200 billion annually, and our target market is just the voluntary demand, which is coming from individuals and companies who are paying for this. There are a lot of reasons why they're paying for this. They're paying for it because they think it's the right thing to do. They're being pressured by their shareholders, by their consumers. This is no longer a fad. This is the way that the large companies are able to stay in business. But there are a lot of problems in the carbon markets today. On the supply side, it's really complicated. It costs a lot of money to pay for validation or even participate in some of these markets. There's a high barrier to entry, and it's almost nearly impossible to find a buyer on the other side. On the demand side, people don't trust what they're paying for because they're extremely opaque. And just about every carbon credit today is double counted. And even if people wanted to pay for soil carbon, there's no easy way for them to do it. That's where Nori tries to simplify all this. So here's how it works. The farmer does the hard work. They adopt new practices, sometimes referred to as regenerative, conservation, sustainable, carbon farming, whatever you call it. From Nori's perspective, it's up to the farmer what practices are right for their farm and what are additional. They then submit a claim through our platform that an independent third party will verify. Upon verification, we issue a unique asset, an NRT, a Nori carbon removal ton, which represents 1 ton of CO2 removed from the atmosphere. When the NRTs sell, the farmer gets paid and we get paid. We take a transaction fee from the buyer. That makes us like an eBay for carbon removal. And guess what? That makes it also in our interest to ensure that the NRTs are as easy as possible to make and sell for the best possible price. Meet Trey Hill. Trey was the first farmer to want to go through our platform and our pilot last year. Here's an example of what Trey sees using our platform. He's able to enter his field boundaries and field-level operating data that enable us to give him back a projection of what he stands to earn. Here are some of the early adopters who bought in the sale. But we couldn't do this without supply collaborators. On the right side, you can see we're proud members of Ag Launch, which connects us to a progressive group of farmers who might be wanting to try and enroll their fields into the Nori platform. We're also extremely proud to have investment from the ag community with Ag Ventures Alliance, which also has been sharing the opportunity with their network of growers across Iowa. Notably, Granular over on the left is an example of how we can scale this efficiently. Trey didn't have to enter all his data or find it in some shoebox. He already had it in Granular. So we were able to integrate through export files and taking the Granular data in, because find me a farmer who wants to enter the same data twice. They don't exist. Comet Farm is probably the secret sauce of how Nori makes all this work. Comet Farm has been a platform that's been under development for the last 3 decades, and it's been funded by the US Department of Agriculture. What this means, as a market, it's not Nori who's coming up with the rules, it's Comet Farm and the USDA. So we're able to implement a new marketplace on top of standards that already exist. Since founding the company in the summer of 2017, we've had a lot of traction. We recently graduated the Nature Conservancy's Techstars Sustainability Accelerator, and we're really proud to be part of the Ag Launch Network. Over 500 people have already bought in our sales, and over $200,000 since launching our pilot in late fall of last year has transacted. At the moment, over 100 farms are either fully qualified or actively enrolled in this marketplace, which represents the potential to sell over 1 million NRTs this year. That's money in the farm community for the carbon crop that they've already generated. And hopefully, that's inspiration for people who haven't even thought about regenerative agriculture to start adopting these practices. When we think about where our competition is, it's with the legacy carbon markets, also known as standards bodies. They're working on efforts for soil carbon, but they haven't yet figured it out. They haven't developed a methodology. And man, would I love if they just used ours, because that would make everyone's life a lot easier. But we take a software-first and scalable approach. And so that means that we can basically get rid of really expensive and costly validation steps. That makes it free for anyone to enroll their fields into our marketplace, and up to that point, they can decide whether they want to move forward. There's no contract up front where you need to sign the terms and not even know what you're signing away. You don't need to sign the contract until you know exactly how much you're going to earn and what you can get for it. And that's because we've used our platform integration with Comet Farm to make that work. Our technology is entirely open source. If someone wanted to come around and copy exactly what we're doing, they could. And that would be good because it would present more options for farmers. We're also completely transparent about how we make this work because that leads to credibility. And so if people have better ideas on how to do better carbon accounting standards, well, they'll hear it because we're not doing this in a black box. The NRTs are sold and retired on the blockchain, which allows us to use new technology to make this transparent and also make it easy for people to know that the data that they're submitting and the people who are paying for that carbon removal, that it's verified and real. And so it's impossible to have double counting in our marketplace. Here's our team. Unlike the screen, we're actually not aliens, we're humans. So I come from a background, before I went off and started my first company where I was brokering carbon offsets and working in the carbon management space, I was chief strategist for the Center for Negative Carbon Emissions and helped raise millions of dollars for early-stage technologies that pull carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. At one point, someone called me a used carbon salesman, and that just stuck. Our CEO had spent almost a decade at Deloitte Digital and had worked with leading software companies and knows how to ship and build software products. Our director of carbon economics at one point was the largest speculative buyer of carbon offsets in the world and has led to some of the early design decisions that exist in the carbon markets. If you ever want to find someone who's more upset about the opaqueness and scams that exist in agriculture and the carbon offset industry, talk to Alden. Our director of product actually led the team that helped design Gmail, so that means that we have an elegant software design, and this is just our executive team. I'm really proud to announce that starting next week, we'll hire our 11th person. And we hope for your investment so we can hire even more people and scale even more quickly to help farmers get paid to remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. So let me do some math for you. You can invest through a SAFT, which is effectively buying a Nori token. The token becomes a reference price on carbon dioxide pulled out of the atmosphere. Today, if you wanted to invest, it would be $1.10 per token. Shell sets their shadow price on carbon at $70. The average trading price of carbon could be $35. So hopefully that helped you with the mental math on the potential for return on investment with Nori's success. Here's my information if you want to get in touch, and thank you for your attention.